Hey, welcome back to another episode of Tech Talk. This is our first Tech Talk of 2020. We had a great year last year, had dozens and dozens of guests from all over the world of technology, folks from CIOs of large enterprise organizations to people kind of leading the charge and some of the newest and coolest technologies out there. And we're excited for what's to come this year. We got a great slate of guests on the calendar, and today is no different. We are joined by David Reichard. David's the CEO of Alluvion here in Jacksonville. So David, thank you. Welcome on the show.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. It's good to be here.
Yeah, glad to have you on. So obviously today we're going to take a little different take, right? Like I mentioned, we've had a lot of guys on in the past that talk about specific technologies, or they talk about, leading organizations and large IT departments. You've got a little different take on the world from Alluvion. So maybe just from the start, people that aren't familiar, tell them kind of who Alluvion is and what you guys do.
Okay. Yeah, Alluvion, we're a national recruiting firm headquartered in Jacksonville. We also have delivery centers in Tampa and South Florida. And really, we solve talent problems for companies. I mean, we recruit nationally to help companies find the people they need to meet their organizational goals. And it's tougher now and more challenging now than it's ever been, really, just because of the booming economy.
Yeah, I was going to say, job market is a great job market now, right? But there's a high demand, especially when we talk about technology, for really skilled people. And we talked a little bit before the show. I mean, one of the most challenging parts I got to imagine is the demand for specific skill sets and technologies that are really brand new. So you're not going to find somebody with 20 years experience in AI, right? And so, I mean, talk about that a little bit, just kind of the state of the market and what you're seeing out there.
Yeah, the pace of change with technology, I think, is making companies look at themselves and try to figure out, is it really the technology or the people? And I think what everybody is learning is it's a little bit of both. Right. The languages, the devices, the networks, the security. I mean, there's so many things to consider now when companies are trying to solve a resource problem, especially when it comes to a high-tech type resource.
Sure.
And as you mentioned, a lot of these technologies are really leading edge. They're just happening. They're just maturing. So there isn't a lot of experience with these technologies. Right. And not even just the understanding of the technology, but how you can use it in the workplace to enhance or improve your company. So companies are trying to struggle with selecting technologies, but then also trying to find the people that have that technology that may have only been around a few months or a few weeks sometimes.
Yeah. So how do you guide your customers to navigate those waters? So if you kind of say, hey, we need somebody that's going to help in the world of SD-WAN, or we're going to help with this cloud computing aspect, and there's nobody with a lot of depth, a huge pool of people with depth of experience, how do you tell them to approach that?
Yeah, I think some of it is trying to understand really what the customer is trying to accomplish, or what our client is trying to accomplish. And many times they look at it as a technology problem, but the technology, I think, takes care of itself many times, but certainly you do have to have individuals that are capable of learning the technology.
Sure.
So I think the message I would say that we try to give to all of our clients today, and also to our candidates and job seekers too, is you really have to be a little bit more open-minded, not so much about what experience do they have with a certain language or platform, but really do they have the ability and the knowledge and the desire to learn new things,
right.
to upskill. The cool term everyone talks about now is upskilling.
Right.
And I think everybody needs a certain element of upskilling, within their organization.
Yeah, so that's interesting. So we see a lot of that now. One of the trends that I've seen with that is an employee will go to a company, they'll get trained and certified and upskilled in an area like cybersecurity. And then after a couple of years, once they've built up that resume, they're already looking for that next gig, that next opportunity. So how do you address that? Just the idea of how do I retain employees in this kind of market?
Yeah, the good and the bad is if you're a cybersecurity expert, you don't have to look far. Everybody's looking for you.
Right.
But, so there are plenty of opportunities, especially for the really specialized technical folks. But I think you have to not get too far away from the fact that if you create the right culture, the right environment, a place that people want to work, you can't so much worry about someone's just going to leave if I give them skills, because I think the opposite happens too. If you don't create the opportunity, if you don't create the excitement, if you don't create the way that they can learn new skills and grow within the organization, they're going to leave there too. So I think it's just the opposite. I think the more you invest in your people, I think the more likely you retain them, and you'll find that over time the quality of your workforce will change for the better.
Yeah. So that's a great point, I think. And from a technology standpoint, I mean, how is technology impacting just your business, right? So as you guys look at this, what used to be very, very relational, I'm sure it's a very relational business still. Are you guys seeing ways to use technology and data to really drive your business forward?
We are, and we're in our 20th year now. And as I think
Congratulations.
Thank you. As I think back to where we were 20 years ago, there was this thing called the classified ads in the
Right.
newspaper, so and fax machines, and some of them still had the wax paper and not the plain paper.
Right.
So you think about what's evolved just in the last 20 years. So the way that companies would publish their ads or their openings, has changed. I mean, you think about just jobs on the career site within a company's website or a career portal. 20 years ago, that was really not thought of, and some of the leading internet search engines and job sources really were just leading and charging to the front. So you had 20 years ago classified ads, fax machines, and paper files with job applications too. So you think it was a very manual process, and then something like the Yellow Page. If you tell a 20-year-old today, go pull out the Yellow Pages and go look up a phone number, that's you're really dating yourself.
Right. Now that's more of a booster seat.
Right, exactly. So you think about how I think technology has affected our industry as much as any, and in some ways it will continue to impact it at a pace that's even faster than we've seen so far. And it's about the data. It's about understanding the data, where the people are coming from, and where do you go to find the people too. But
sure,
the one thing I would add too, and in the comment earlier, you talk about retaining and understanding the talent in your workforce. I think that's one of the most underused areas within organizations.
The retention side of things.
It is, and so we companies, we work so hard to attract the right people. We attract them for what we think the current need is and how they can fill that current need. But many times I don't think we look as deep into the individual and understand really their capabilities overall and how they can help you other ways in the organization. So I think the technology will help us with that. I mean, you see like these badging systems that are getting to be so popular. I mean, people are self-learners now too. And some of the terms you hear frequently is lifetime learners. Right. That the next generation of talented, high-tech workers will be the lifetime learners. So how as a society we can understand when people are growing their skills and keep up with these skills as they add them, because they're adding them on their own many times.
Sure. Yeah, I think you're right. I think the companies we've seen have done a really good job with that. They tend to pour into their workforce, right? So they're trying to help them upskill and advance their careers. But they're also helping those guys connect to a mission, right? So I've noticed a lot with kind of that younger generation. I feel like an old guy now saying younger generation. Not that old, but when you start to look at that, you start thinking about, all right, how do I connect these guys with the why of the company? The Simon Sinek, start with why. If they're connected with your company's mission, if you're doing something to help them grow in their careers and they feel that, they're going to be less likely to leave. Do you find that's...
I think it's more true than some realize. I think people want to connect in and they want to be part of something. And certainly they want flexibility too. I think we all like flexibility. I mean, we're all busy people, and social media has taken over, or your digital needs have taken over a lot of the space in our lives. But I think people still want to feel part of something, and in the workplace, I think still has a big role to play. Yeah,
we talk about being part of something. One of the things that you've obviously made a name for yourself here in town, and have been a great part of this community here, is really pouring back into the community as well. So I know you're involved in a number of different organizations. The STEM to Hub program is one that I know you're pretty passionate about. Maybe just briefly talk about that a little bit as well.
Yeah, and being a Jacksonville native, I mean, certainly anything we can do to help this community is important to me, and we've been very fortunate to be able to touch people's careers, for 20 years. And it's great to see people progress through their life, or when they need a career change, you can be there. But then you start thinking ahead, what the next 10, 15, 20 years looks like. Well, with the changing job force and the changing technology that's happening, it became more and more evident that we really have to focus on the next generation of worker. The young kids are going to take care of us one day. And so when we started thinking about that, we really thought as a community we needed to come together and try and solve some of these problems, because they're really not education problems. They're really not family problems. They're really not corporate problems. They're really community challenges. Sure. And we felt as a corporate community, we could probably deliver the message and help people understand really what we need in the workforce going forward, because it is the backbone of the economy in our community. It's a job. And if we can solve the job problem and give the next generation worker the right skills, I think we're all going to be in a much better place. Yeah. So we came together with a bunch of local firms and national firms here in Jacksonville, and we started a nonprofit, the STEM 2 Hub, and it's really focused on changing the way that we educate and train our kids and people in the workforce to prepare them for a high-tech job in the future. And it's, the science, technology, and engineering, math, and medicine. And it's been a huge success. And Automax, the the company you work with, Jeff, has been a big part of that, and it's been a pleasure working with Jennifer and David through that process too.
Yeah, it's been great. I mean, just that whole idea of closing that digital divide for a lot of the folks here in town and building that pool of, the next generation's candidates for some of these positions we're talking about here, I think is a big deal. So, well, we appreciate all the stuff you're doing here in town. We appreciate having you part of the community, and it's great to get some feedback on the perspective of the market today. So thanks for joining us. And thank you guys for joining us as well. We hope you'll come back next time and tune into the next Tech Talk.